Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to my continuous attempts to increase my Zwift racing score. I haven't been using Zwift riding much lately just because the weather's been so nice. I've been riding outdoors, and also I've been in a bigger run block. And during that run block, I kind of get away from the bike and use it only as a recovery tool. This day, that was the plan. I was going to hop on and just do an easy hour on the bike because I went out the day before, had a long run, so I wasn't sure what my legs were going to do. But when I popped on, I noticed that the crit race was scheduled, and it was a 24K, I believe, and it was using the old Jarvis route, which is one of the original routes from way back, which they've re-released, and it's 4 or 5 laps, I think, of the course. And really, if you look in the top right corner there, you can see the elevation changes. There's really only one climb, so I thought maybe it might be a good race to give it a little whirl again. The plan was to just stay in the top 10 as much as I could. I think my Zwift score at this point is like a 319 or something like that, which keeps me in the lower division. I think it's D, and so I figured it would be a good spot to get a good recovery ride in if the race kind of went all over the place, or get a good workout in if I was feeling it. The goal wholeheartedly was just to keep myself in that top 10. I like the way this race started. If you notice, it didn't start like some races where everybody hits 500 watts and it's broken up right away. Everybody kind of stuck together. There's about 15 to 20 of us, I think, in this race total. And then as we're riding along, there's only a handful of actual climbs in the race. So there's this one little climb here coming up. Anytime we hit a climb on Zwift now, one of the updates is they show you the elevation changes emphasized in the screen just below your speed and time. And my thought was that if we were staying together early on, I would just kind of try to read and react to the race itself. There's not a lot that goes on. It's as we do each lap, I do a little bit of experimentation with the climb, just to try out to see what worked and what didn't work. You see the 2 boosts that people are getting. I got the featherweight there, which allows me to climb a little bit faster, and you see some people have the anvil, which actually gives you the advantage on descents because it makes you heavier. Some of these people played their anvil on the climb, which probably made things a little bit tough on them, but for me, I was able to get a featherweight on the first lap. I continue. This is about the only time throughout the whole race that we really got stretched out, and it's early on, so I had to do a little bit of a dig. But again, when you look in the top left, I'm playing around with 200 watts, and my FTP is around 230, 230, low 230s. So I didn't have to go terribly deep to get back on. I will reach back to the group here, but that was the first little break that suggested I needed to push hard every once in a while. So with that, I'm going to slowly get back across to the group, and then I was a little more attentive to just stay at it, or stay right on with everybody. Each lap on the hill, you'll see me experiment a little bit. When I have the featherweight, I try to push a little bit harder on the climb, and when I have the anvil, I try and push harder on the descent and see if I can get separation in either of the opportunities. The theory in my head was if everything was doing well and if I was feeling well, on that final lap, I would really put in a good solid surge on that last climb, and a good solid surge into that final descent as well. As you come down the descent, there's a little sprint section as well. It's relatively flat into the final into the actual finish line, and like I said, the goal was just try and put myself as far ahead as I could. So with that, I'll probably put on some a little bit of enjoyable music or something. I may pop back in at the end just as a little summary, but hope you enjoy. And here you have it. I'm coming into the final finish line, and I'm not going to be able to reel in the guy in front of me. He really put it down in that last little stretch, but I was able to hold on to second place, which I was pretty proud of because I just wasn't sure what kind of legs I'd have because of the run I did the day before, but I was pretty happy with it. I ended up increasing my racing score to 330 or 339, I believe, and it will give me another step on my attempts to get up another division. I think a number of years, last year, the year before, I was up into the top of C, into the bottom of B, and then they changed the way the Zwift racing score was done, so then I've kind of battled my way back up. But I do lose it because I just don't race enough. That's one of the challenges I have. I'm in a big run block right now, so I haven't stuck with it. So I do a little recovery. I'm probably on it for another probably 20 minutes or so, just to try and spin the legs out. I was really happy with some of the strategies I pulled off today, and we'll look at probably trying to race a little bit more into late August and into September. I hope you all enjoyed it. I will continue putting stuff out. I'll continue playing around with things. I've also been using Zwift Run quite a bit lately, and hoping to find a way to enhance what they do, because I think Zwift Run is a bit of a hidden gem on Zwift. Hope you all had a great day. Enjoy the video and stay fit.